Yeah. Okay. Hey, welcome to episode 2 of Rolling Sober. And as our first guest, we have Dave G.
Woo!
Dave G, who ultimately actually came up with the name Rolling Sober.
Right?
My
Yeah.
man. It was so crazy. I was like going around telling people I want to start this thing. And they were like, there's a guy who has that thing.
Yeah.
You should talk to that guy.
Right.
And we started talking to each other. And here we are.
Nice. Who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah.
I'm James. I'm James Bias. And yeah, that's my name.
Yep. I'm White Belt Zach. I'm co-pilot of this here ship.
You a
at the
cokehead?
moment.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was a cokehead. Now I'm sober. This is Rolling Sober. I got a piece of business before we get rolling into this Rolling Sober episode. I roasted James on episode 1 for having a big gulp full of coffee. And he said, no, it's a thing you can get at 7-Eleven. And I was like, all right. And I thought it was him just exhibiting addict behavior. And he's just like stealing a big gulp cup and then going to the coffee machine and taking coffee. I went to the 7-Eleven today to see what the deal is. And sure enough, there's a cold brew machine with the only cups you can use for it are big gulp cups. And the only sizes they got are large and grande, which I don't know if Mr. 11 knows, but those are the same thing. And there is not like a small option anywhere.
Yeah. I heard they were out, huh?
So, and then, yeah, I tried to get one because I wanted to double up for this episode so I got my nitro. This is the best I could do because they were all empty, which means you're not the only one doing that.
Well,
like everyone in Pasadena is doing that kind of thing.
you know what's funny? I got this yesterday and left it in the fridge.
Oh, okay, so this is the same one.
No, this is actually the second one I had that day. I just didn't finish it.
Wow.
That's a big gulp full of cold brew.
That is actually nitro cold brew coffee.
You're a savage.
Yeah, I'm gross. I hate
It's
it.
terrifying. So speaking of being sober,
All right, cool. So I think I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself, Dave, and kind of give us a little bit of where you're from, and when did you start to realize that you were maybe headed down the wrong path with addiction.
Cool. So my name is Dave Gieselman. My sobriety date is July 25th, 1999. Let's get all the stats out of the way. I'm a purple belt under the GF team flag. Born and raised Los Angeles. So I think that's all the real important stuff. I cooked for a long time. I cooked professionally for a long, long time, and
Cooked food.
Cooked food. I was
Not meth.
I was not meth, but I was a chef for a long time, and I started cooking professionally very, very young. And kitchens are stressful environments, and I, like many young cooks, attempted better living through chemistry, and it turned out not to be a long-term sustainable solution for me. Like so many other alcoholics, addicts, I'm pretty agnostic about what you call yourself or how you manage to get sober. I was always trying to solve a problem, right? In AA they call them the bedevilments, right? I was just always, I couldn't control my emotional nature. I was a prey to misery and depression. I couldn't like forge and nurture relationships that felt authentic. I couldn't make a satisfying living. I was full of fear all the time. I was never not working for an idiot. I never didn't hate my job, and I was never not looking for the next one. And I was just this. I was like this little ingrown hair all of my life. I was just uncomfortable. I didn't feel right. I didn't feel like I fit, and I attempted to solve that, when I was a kid with food and with cookies and with caffeine and with nicotine. And I finally found, thank God I found alcohol, and alcohol just worked better than anything else ever had.
Yeah, I feel that big time.
Right. And it was the solution to the problem. And I like so many of us, it worked. And so I found a solution that worked and just kept doing it. And it grew and it progressed, and it wasn't long before I realized that I wasn't doing it the way other people were doing it, and I had when it was time to go to a party or something, I had a real specific destination, and it looked like hammered. Like everybody else was trying to get there, and I was trying to get hammered as fast as possible. Right. the name of my game was overshooting the mark, right? That was where I wanted to be, and where I knew that I was like okay and comfortable and fine. But by the time I was there, I had like 3 or 4 drinks that still hadn't hit bottom yet.
You're an overachiever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to derail your story, but I do want to ask you something because I think about this a lot. Do you think if someone would have told you early on, hey, the point is not to get drunk, that is actually the game of drinking alcohol, do you think that would have been helpful to you?
100% not.
No,
100% not.
No.
And I'll tell you why. Because in alcohol, I found a solution, and it wasn't in a little bit. It was in a lot. The solution was in what happened when I crossed a certain line that most people attempted to stay on this side of. And it was only when I was on the other side of that line, when I was really drunk, that I felt like I could breathe and I could exhale and I could like be like okay, and then we played that game for as long as it lasted, and the drinking increased, and what's the thing, my circumstances worsened faster than I could lower my standards. Is what happened. My companions changed, the people I was drinking around changed, what I was drinking. At first it was like Jack Daniel's neat in a bar. Like that was what I liked. And then it was, by the end it was Aqua Velva aftershave and Cool Mint Listerine and vanilla extract. And that's, that was kind of where I ended up. My last drink was I was drinking the last remnants of empties out of the bottles that were in a dumpster behind a bar. Like that was my last drink.
Yikes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you experienced homelessness towards the end of your drinking, yeah?
Yeah, I about 2 years of homelessness. It started out on the couch tour. That's only as cute as for a little while. Then I was living in my truck for a minute, and I tried living with a girlfriend, and what do they call that, a hobosexual?
Mm-hmm.
If you got a place to live, I'm in love.
Yeah. Some people call it musicians too.
Right,
Yeah,
drummers.
yeah.
I believe.
Drummers. Yeah. For
Actually,
sure.
being
they're known for that. Yeah.
being a drummer,
Mhm.
and then when all of the goodwill of friends and everything else just ran out, I was living in alleys, and it was kind of okay because I was working full time in a couple different places, and they handled my uniforms, and I could go into the locker room and shower and shave and make it look like I had my stuff together, and we would hang out in bars until the tail end of the night. And it was just, for a while, it was just kind of easier to not have a place to go. Just crash out behind this thing. It was Pasadena was relatively safe, and the weather has never killed anybody in Pasadena ever. So no, it was a great place to be homeless.
The heat might have killed us, yes, over the weekend.
Right.
So when did you start getting sober? Like, what was that like?
The day I got sober, and I think it's really important to say this, the day I got sober, or the day before I got sober, was not the worst day of my life. It was not the shittiest day of my life. We hear so many people tell these stories. You got to hit rock bottom, and then you can do a thing. And then the day before I got sober was just another shitty day in a long string of shitty days. Like that's what it was. There was no like catastrophic event that I woke up that morning. I'm like, it's time. What happened was, I got tricked into my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was a homeless guy, and like I said, I had just gotten out of a dumpster. I was polishing off empty bottles in a dumpster behind a bar, and I was walking down an alley, and there was some guys smoking cigarettes, and I asked them if I could bum a cigarette, and they're like, "Yeah, hey man, do you want to?" They saw me coming a mile off, right? They're like, "Yeah, you want to come in here? We got tail end of July in Pasadena. It's hotter than hell, right?" They go, "We got we got donuts and coffee and AC. You can come in, hang out, and just nobody will mess with you." I'm like, and I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, what do you got going on in there? I said, it's an AA meeting. I said, what's AA? And they're like, yeah, don't even worry about that, pal. We got free shit.
Yeah.
Do you like donuts? We got
right.
we got donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
yeah,
coffee.
yeah.
And so there was it was the old 202 Club back when it was on Raymond in Pasadena. And I went in, and they were just about to start the first meeting, and the meeting started, and it was, it was a table full of coffee and donuts and cookies and stuff. And I learned in that first meeting that if I raised my hand and said, "My name's Dave, I'm an alcoholic," it was all the coffee, cigarettes, and donuts that I could eat. They had like 6 meetings a day in this place. You could hang out there all day. There was always coffee. There was always guys to bum cigarettes off of, and they were nice. Like, they were nice to me. And so, like, I was just a homeless guy with a hustle trying to figure out what an alcoholic was, right? I got to figure out how to walk and talk like a duck real quick. Like, I don't know what an alcoholic is. I don't know what you guys do. My biggest fear was that these guys were going to find out I wasn't an alcoholic and tell me I wasn't welcome. That was the fear.
I love that was the worry, and the guys who saw you in that alley were probably like, boom, this guy's an alcoholic, like out of the gate. But then just getting you to get to that point was probably what they were thinking in the back of their minds as sober people who kind of had been in your position. They were like, we just got to get this guy to admit it, and then that's the first step. And if it just means lying about the donuts and cigarettes, then that's worth it.
Yeah.
Especially what you ended up being,
And if they didn't see you coming, I bet that day that you were digging in the dumpster, they might have smelt you coming, huh?
Right.
You smelled real good.
Right. Yeah. So my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was pissed drunk, smelled like a dumpster, right? I was homeless. And I say this because I think it's important, is when I walked over to like that table with all the donuts and stuff and started loading up like everything I could hold, what didn't happen was that nobody said, "Hey, can we get the stinky drunk homeless guy away from the donuts?" That's not what they said. They said, "Hey, did you see that we have cake?"
Yeah.
Like that was the AA that welcomed me. Yeah. That was the group that welcomed me. And I detoxed in the back of that Alano Club. And if you have never experienced acute, unsupervised, unmedicated alcoholic detox in the back of an Alano Club, I highly recommend it.
Oh, really?
There is nothing that will give you an appreciation for the life you currently have quite like it.
Yeah. Sounds like a vibe.
Yeah, it was nuts. I don't recommend it. It was gnarly. It was crazy. I should have been.
And ultimately, right, like we nowadays medically, we recommend people to go through a medical detox if they've been drinking heavily, right?
I should have. What was crazy about that thing, and it is an important part of my story, is that they had this big basket full of Hostess fruit pies. Remember the disgusting Hostess fruit pies? They're full of like just lard and red dye and just.
I don't think they were disgusting. Were they disgusting?
I
remember delicious Hostess fruit pies.
At the time, they were delicious. Yeah. And this guy kept this basket of them full from the food bank. And at any given point, I had like 4 in my pocket. I was eating these things hand over fist. And I was getting over on these suckers and these AA suckers, like so hard. Like I was robbing them blind. Like they didn't know how many of these things I was eating. And the truth of the matter is that they knew that it was all the sugar and the lard in these things that kept me from going into seizures. Like back in the day, they used to pour like Caro syrup down your throat. They used to pour like corn syrup down your throat. 3 steps into the metabolic process, alcohol and sugar are identical. And so when you experience acute alcoholic detox, what you're experiencing is a glycemic detox.
Wow.
Like it's suddenly
a sugar crash, basically.
It's a sugar crash. It's a massive sugar crash that will stop your heart.
That's so wild. I don't know. Maybe my body knew that I needed to crush pints of Ben and Jerry's ice cream when I first got sober. I would smash a whole pint of it. And I didn't go through medical detox either. I was just at home watching sci-fi, smashing Ben and Jerry's, and going to our secret little Fight Club meetings,
Right.
Yeah, that's so wild. That was the same. I was in New York City, and I was like, I've never been a big foodie.
Right.
And as soon as I got sober, I still smoked cigarettes and stuff. And that was like, I was like, all I can do is, ice cream, like gelato, those like bacon, egg, and cheeses you get everywhere. Like I was just like eating like a maniac. And I was like, what, and now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that's it, probably. I was like trying to just fill that void.
Right.
And physically, like my body knew I needed that.
Or maybe perhaps we were guided by a higher power. Who knows?
You never know.
You never know.
You never
maybe we
know,
had
man.
a higher purpose and it wasn't time.
What was important is that, these guys watched me like get over on them. And it was the sugar, it was the fat, it was the lard, it was all that stuff and those things keeping me from going into like delirium tremens and grand mal seizures and your heart stops. And they knew that those things were saving my life, and they knew that I didn't know that. And I think the kindest thing that they ever did is they gave this drunk the dignity of just letting me get over on them. They did not feel the need to share that information with me. And they just gave me the dignity of just getting over on them. And because if they'd have told me, we know what you're doing and whatever, I would have stopped. I would have stopped. I would have left. I would have, and I would have either started drinking again or I'd have sugar crashed and died. Like, so.
Damn. You know, that's such a beautiful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So they'll take anybody, you know, regardless of their state. They could be screaming about Jesus and they'll let you come in there as long as you like quiet down for meeting time. Pretty much they're going to let you stay no matter how bad you smell or whatever. We're like, rather they are happy to have you in there. And that's one thing that makes me just the tiniest bit sad about Rolling Sober is that like, that's not the only you can't come in here and not be clean and do jujitsu with us. You know, you'd have to. I would let you stay here, and you'd have to sit out. And hey, why don't you come next week? Or you know what? Maybe I'd let them take a shower here or something. But like, you know, the bar for entry is a little tiny bit higher. Like I'm not going to teach someone jujitsu who's a crazy person that might use it to go and choke their girlfriend or something. I won't do that. And we have a responsibility to kind of suss out the people and see if we're going to, you know, entrust them with this knowledge.
It's maybe like a second step thing where it's like you show up, the initial moments. Like I know when I got sober and I went and did like my Burning Desire, I just went straight from jail to a meeting in a basement at one of those fight clubs. And we went down there and I was like, yeah, just got out. I got like 40 numbers that day. And I had that first few weeks of like, just real baby sobriety stuff. I think if I had got someone had also loaded onto my plate, oh, here's like a physical activity that'll also help you with this, but it's like very taxing and like there's all these kind of rules to it or whatever, it would have maybe not stuck. Like you're saying, like if someone told me like this is what you need to do right now to help yourself get sober. Although like then I came to it later and now I can't imagine. It's not like it's my sobriety is relying on it, but it helps so much with my mental stuff and all the other dry drunk stuff that you can deal with. Like having this physical outlet is so huge, but it is true. Like we should probably point out if you are at that point of your sobriety, we joked about it last week or in the last episode that like we'll take fresh people into this community like 2 weeks. But now I'm like, maybe if they just got out of the dumpster, we should maybe like figure out, like find a nice barrier to entry, a little bit of like, hey, let people get a few months under them and get, you know, their life situation straightened out. And then this could be really beneficial to have that.
Yeah, agreed. What do you think?
I think the barrier for entry for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, it should be higher than the barrier for entry for AA. No, you know, AA, yeah, no, we'll take you however you are. But in AA, let's be real clear, we're not teaching you how to choke somebody unconscious.
Yeah.
Right? We're not getting into aggressive cuddling with you in a meeting. So I mean, it's a different deal.
Yeah, totally.
You know, when you get into AA and you start looking at the history, you know, the one question they just ask themselves over and over and over again is who gets to die because we shut the door on them, right? Who are we sentencing to an alcoholic death because we're like, no, that you can't come in. And it was women, it was people of color, it was Jews, it was immigrants, it was all, and you know, the same issues that we have in our country right now, everyone we want to other, right? Well, not them, that those people are not, we can't just let those people in here willy-nilly, right? And it kept going back to, who dies an alcoholic death if we close the door on them. And so that's why it is what it is. Very different than a martial arts environment, right? Nobody dies if we're like, you need a month of sobriety and a minimum of 3 showers before we can do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's not a total barrier of entry of like that then eliminates that person's chances of coming in here. It's just like, you know,
or
just
of
like
sobriety. It doesn't eliminate their chances of sobriety either.
And hopefully it sets a goal almost where it's like, this thing seems really cool. I like these people from everyone in here is from other sober programs and other secret fight clubs and stuff. And they could be like, I want to be part of this community, you know, not to be like, oh, you know, you gotta be a cool kid to be here. But it is good that we're like making this distinction now. I'm glad we're having this talk, Dave, because I was like, well, we should just like this is like something that everyone should be able to do. But I'm like, oh yeah, it's tough. Like you wouldn't teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu necessarily. You teach meditation in like jail. You wouldn't teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right?
I teach breathing.
Breathing. That's a good point. Yeah. Breathing is like a good place to start with it, and you could maybe do the meeting portion and then watch and see some of that and having the breath work and
100%.
I would love to teach some dudes in jail Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but I don't know if it would be responsible. Dave, so you're getting over on the dudes, you're eating the sugar, when does it start to turn into, oh, actually I belong here, I want to stay here?
It was a while. So, I sat in a million meetings, right? I just sat in meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And all I did was go to work and then come to this place because I didn't know anything else. I had nowhere else to go, and so I started learning some things. For the first 2-3 weeks, I was just detoxing. I was just a mess and nothing made sense. And these guys were laughing and I didn't hear anything that was super funny. And, I'm like, I didn't get it. But I'm just trying to figure out how to keep the supply of donuts and cigarettes coming, right? So this was a good deal for me. I just didn't want to blow it. And so I began listening. You can hear what you can hear. And my experience was I heard they were talking about this literature that you had to read, this book, and then they were talking about some steps or some stairs, and that didn't make any sense to me at all. And you needed a sponsor thing, and I didn't know what a sponsor thing was, and that sounded creepy. I wasn't trying to ask some dude to go steady with me. I didn't know what the whole deal was. And so finally they're like, yeah, just find the guy who's got the life that you want and tell him he's your sponsor. And I'm like, is it really? Is that it? Is that how this thing works? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so all right, you, the guy with full sleeve tattoos, Harley Davidson, great big truck, owns your own business, house in Sierra Madre. I'll take that. So whatever it is you do, let's go. And he was like, really? Are you sure? And we ran through the 12-step process in 6 weeks. He was this guy was about it. And he didn't flinch. He didn't anything. He just took me through, we opened the literature and he just like words on the page. He didn't inject a bunch of opinion. He didn't inject a bunch of weird dogma. He goes, look, this is what we do. This is how it works. And this is what we do. And we just went through that process. And, when I got to that step where you reach out and start helping others, what he said was, he goes, Alcoholics Anonymous, we ask one thing of you. And I just like to recognize there are lots of ways to get sober. AA is not the only one. It's just the one that worked for me. It's just the one I found. And it was because it was the one that you guys found me, right? You guys found me and you were kind to me.
It's that donut hustle, man.
It's that donut hustle.
Good move.
Right? And he said, the one thing that AA wants from you, the only thing we care about, the only thing that we're ever going to ask of you is the moment you're out of the hole, the moment you've been lost in this pit forever and somebody jumped in and helped you out and got you out. The moment you're out of the hole, not once you get a job and a car and a girlfriend and you've kind of got the everything kind of worked out and you're on your feet again. No, the moment you're out of the hole, the only thing we want is for you to reach back into the hole and start pulling guys out. That's the only thing we ask is that you immediately reach back into the hole.
Not jumping down into the hole with them to get them out.
Right.
But throwing down the rope ladder that you found to help them climb out. They just got to grab the rope,
Yeah.
Just grab the rope.
Your job is to reach back in.
Yeah, I dig it.
And because you know the way out.
Yep.
Right? You know how to get there.
Yeah.
And so I've been a real high volume sponsor. I found myself in that process, and there's lots of different ways to find yourself in recovery. And I just found myself in that process of finding guys and going, here, let's go.
When did you start doing jiu-jitsu? When was that in your sobriety? Actually, one more question. You gave us your sobriety date, and the math went over my head. How long have you been sober?
25 years.
25 years, quarter of a century.
Celebrated 25.
Woo!
Badass.
I know, it's so dope. And when did you start doing jiu-jitsu in that?
Jiu-jitsu came year 14, year 15. In the process of all that, I got met a girl, and she thought I was cute, and I was in no position to argue.
She was right.
She was right. And if that's what you think, cool. I'm real glad you see that. And she married me, and we had a son, and my son was 4 years old, and it was time to get him like doing something. And so I took him over to Pasadena to Villa Park, and they had this little this community jujitsu program, and it was 1 day a week, and it was dirt cheap, and we did the thing, and we went there, and he joined the kids class, and a couple of the parents came over to me and asked me if I was going to join the adult class, and I'm like, I'm a 265-pound chain smoking chef. No, not.
Not for me.
I'm not doing that. Thank you. And they go, that's cool. So when your son is a 15-year-old black belt and you think he should clean his room and he thinks you should go piss up a rope, what exactly do you intend to do about that? And I'm like, well, maybe one class, right?
That's
Right?
my
Yeah,
that's my
put it that
nightmare.
way.
That is
Right?
my nightmare.
Get beat up by your
By
black
your
belt
son.
son. Yeah.
Okay, so my son is now 20, a student at the University of Hawaii, and every time he comes home, routinely punishes me for every single time I put my knee on his belly when he was 10.
Nice. Yeah.
Is he still doing jujitsu?
He still is. He
That's
still
awesome.
rolls. He still rolls. So we got into it, and so I took a class. He took a class. We decided that day that this was going to be the jam for us. We stayed at Villa Park for a year and a half, and then it was time to find a real jiu-jitsu school. I'd found several open mats during the week that we could go roll in. There was a Shark Tank over in Atwater that was absolutely brutal. Bunch of Go-Core guys. And
Yikes. For those who are listening who are not super jujitsu heads or just sober folks, can you explain what a Shark Tank is?
yeah, it was no gi. So no, you didn't know what the first day you show up. You don't know who anybody's rank. You don't know anybody's skill level. Some guys are black belts. Some guys is their first time ever grappling, and you don't know until you slap, bump, and go.
Right.
So you don't know anything about who they are, where they are, and it was a very, very high skill level Shark Tank, but it was also guys like me who were like white belts who had done this a little bit. There was also guys who this was like their first time, and so they were like, okay, so, and you get on the mat and realize the guy who was going up against you, this was his first time doing anything. So you're like, okay, bro, the name of the game is get on top and stay there. Like you don't need to do anything other than that. And then they just set a round timer. So it was 3-minute round, 30 seconds in between, and you just moved one way or the other. They had these mats lined up, and you just moved one way or the other, and 30 seconds later, you're on to the next match. And so the guy you just rolled with, this is his first time grappling. The next guy you rolled with, this is one of like Go-Core's like secret guys who's he's taken to smokers down in Tijuana and is routinely just wrecks everybody. He puts his hands on, and that's your next opponent, and you don't know, and
it's just
so
round
it's fun.
robin. All
It's
felt like
round
it was fun,
robin.
yeah.
It was and you got to know these guys, and you got to know which one of them were gonna destroy you, and which one of them that you could take. And what was great is that everybody was super kind, and that was the thing. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all the grappling arts really, and the recovery people, everyone was the same. Like everybody, they would meet you where they are. Nobody needed to lord anything over you. Nobody had anything to prove to me. The guys with time in sobriety weren't like tisk-tisking me. The guys who were really experienced grapplers had no desire to like choke me unconscious or break my arm. They wanted me to love this stuff as much as they loved it.
Yeah, to get with you, it's almost the exact same thing of like just pulling people up.
Yeah.
It's that same energy of just like, I want you to be a black belt, so I'm gonna, I'm not gonna go easy on you.
Right.
I'm gonna like hold you accountable and make sure you're doing everything right, but I'm not gonna try to push you out of this. Which is cool.
And like so many of us find, you and I talked about this when we first met, is my AA journey and my sobriety journey and my journey in jiu-jitsu kind of just ran parallel courses for a long time. And I found a GF team school in Montrose that didn't survive the pandemic. Shout out M3 Fight and Fitness. I love those guys. I loved everybody I trained with. I made it to rank a purple belt. I competed a ton. My son competed a ton. And we had a really good time, and it was good.
Is your son a black belt now?
No, he was in high school when the pandemic hit, so he was still in children's ranks, and and all the schools just kind of went away, and so I don't know. I mean, he's 20 now. He'd probably be even with all that time off, he'd probably be a solid, a high blue or a purple. Like I can't beat him anymore.
Right.
I'm a purple belt. So no, he'd probably be give him 3 months on a mat to get the rust off and start training in earnest again. I know he still does like open mats and stuff, but nothing real. But no, he'd be a solid purple.
Righteous.
That's awesome. When did the breath work come into this? I know that's a big thing for you, and that kind of, I guess you would call it like that sort of, I guess for some people would call it like the crunchy healing arts, like that we get into when you get sober. Some people get into meditation, some people get into like breath work, people get into, eating better, all that kind of stuff. Was that all at the same time as the jiu-jitsu journey and all that, or before?
It was sort of before. So, I was still in professional kitchens and working in real high-end kitchens. And my coping mechanism changed, had to change, but my environment didn't. And so I had to find a way to regulate my nervous system. Like I was cooking at Spago. I was at the Peninsula Hotel. Like I was in like serious kitchens with making serious food. And it was a big deal. And it was high stress. And so I went diving into neuroscience and flow state and peak performance, transient hypofrontality, meditation, mindfulness, breath work, because I had to find a way to regulate my nervous system that was not chemical. Because even, 8 Red Bulls will get you through the night, but you still got to get to sleep tonight and come back tomorrow, because you got to do that tomorrow.
Right.
Like, and we watch people in recovery just sucking down the energy drinks and all this stuff. And
You can say it. And the coffee.
Yeah.
and the coffee and the coffee. I have a love-hate relationship with coffee. I just go on these roller coasters. And,
Samesies.
whatever. Caffeine does not destroy my life, destroy my relationships, make me homeless, and make me want to die.
Right.
Alcohol did.
Yeah.
Cocaine did.
I heard early on in sobriety when I was schvetzing about quitting smoking and quitting caffeine or something, someone was like, do it in the order it's killing you. Like worry about it. And
It's great.
Get the stuff that like is really causing trouble. And then one day you'll, I quit smoking. This is the only thing I got. Me and Jaime here are big on being a coffee podcast. But, it's one of those things that it's as long as it's sustainable, and you're not, like you're saying, burn yourself out. Like if I have a high stress job occasionally, and if I have like 4 cups of coffee a day, I'm like, oh, this is me trying to reach on to something that isn't there. Yeah. It's like grabbing a ladder that doesn't exist, and I'm actually just making myself fall more.
Oh man,
Right.
that reminds me of this Gabor Mate quote. He said, "It's hard to get enough of something that almost does the trick."
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so good.
That checks out.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I got into breath work, and I did a lot of different types of breath work over the years, and it centered me in it. And then I got in 2017, I got exposed to like flow state breath work. I worked with this guy, and I went to this session. I was at a retreat down in like La Jolla, and this guy who's a qigong master in his own right. He said, "Yeah, I'm gonna run breath work in the morning." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know breath work, Wim Hof and stuff. Yeah, cool." But this was kind of like some weird hippie stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if lying down on the floor of a conference hotel room, and breathing my ass off with a bunch of hippies
Right.
is quite my. But I went with a huge chip on my shoulder. I'm like, all right, show me, right? And so I went and I did this, and for like first time in like 15 years, like I got high as fuck. Like I got crazy high.
High on your own supply.
Oh my God. And so I immediately afterwards, like the alcoholic in me just in full effect, I went up to this guy. I'm like, so how often can you do something like that? Like, is that can you do that a lot? Is that an everyday, or is that a once a week thing? Dude knew exactly what he was looking at when he dealt with me. Looked me dead in the eye and goes, "You can't breathe too much, dude." And I'm in. And from that, like every YouTube, every $20 in a yoga studio, every all the Eventbrite meetup, breath work on the beach, like I'm in, and so I went back to this guy not too long after that. I'm like, all right, once again, here's the addict, right? All right, bro, I'm all done buying this. I'm ready to start selling it.
Right.
Teach me. So I gave this guy a giant pile of money. I worked with him for a couple of years, and he taught me how to develop, how to do a bunch of different types of breath work. He helped me develop my own modality. And so now I do limitless flow. That is my modality, and it is flow state neuroscience based breath work.
Is your company called Just Breathe?
No, this is just a shirt I bought, but I like the logo, so you'll see this logo on a bunch of my my stuff. No, the brand is Limitless Flow.
Limitless Flow. Could you take do we need to lay on the floor for you to take us through a breathwork thing? We can do that, by the way. And I was thinking, I don't know if you're willing to do this, you could take us through a breathwork thing, and the folks at home could park their car and join along, or lay on their floor or whatever. I don't want to make you give away your Limitless Flow for free, but I thought it would be kind of neat to make me and this guy do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. I'll do you one better, so that nobody has to like figure out how to do it right now while they're listening. In your show notes, I will give you guys a link to I teach a public session Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. And it's hybrid, so you can either join me live in Highland Park, or you can join me live on Zoom. It's the same. I will give you guys a link to this, and I will give you guys a promo code for your listeners, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yes.
And there's no expiration date on this. It'll be a Rolling Sober only promo code, and if you get it from Rolling Sober, you can come join me for free and go find out what
That's
that is
awesome.
for you.
That is classy as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
You
Love
are
it.
a class act, sir.
That's awesome.
You
So-
were correct. That was one better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big time.
so instead somebody's driving, listening to this thing, and they're like, "Oh, he's doing," you
Time to
pause
go.
it. and
Yeah,
find-
it's a whole
Yeah.
thing.
No,
Yeah.
come join me. Come do it. Come find out what this is all about. It's a 90-minute session. It's about 50 minutes of focused, intentional breathing. You are going to get high as hell. You probably will cry. You are going to drop into transient hypofrontality. You're going to drop into flow state, and you're gonna have a crazy experience.
Oh man, I'm in.
Yeah,
Let's
it sounds
go.
rad.
I'm gonna try to get high on that.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we've done breath work
That's
a couple
the
of
vibe.
times at the end of the
It's a little taster though. I
The
want
Rolling
the
Sober.
whole thing.
Oh, you'll
whole
get
shebang.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you get all buzzy and you're like, what
Yeah.
the heck? Yeah, it's good.
Now, for people who don't know anything about breathwork, like at all, it's literally just sort of what you would see like in a meditation class where you're leading it in a guided way and people are just breathing intentionally, kind of thing.
It is, focused, intentional breathing.
Mm-hmm.
If you show up looking for the calm, relaxy, sleepy, breathy thing, that's not what
That's
this
not it.
is.
Oh, okay.
This is, if you've ever done or seen Wim Hof,
Yes. Okay.
and it's kind of intentional, it's kind of intense. That's what this is, and we do several rounds of really focused sort of work breathing, and then there's some breath holds, and it's an
Do you-
entire thing.
Do you feel like I suppose it's probably worth saying I love breath work and I hate meditation. I love like intense, hardcore breathing. It's not a replacement for meditation though, is it? Like you kind of need to do both in order to have like a balanced mental, benefit situation, don't you think?
I would say that if you have a hard time with meditation, breath work is an ideal way to go.
Yes.
It is
cool.
That's good news for
if
people
you're
like me.
anything like me and you got like an ADD brain, and just the idea of sitting there with your eyes closed and not thinking about anything, or just focusing on like the inch underneath your nose or whatever the dumb stuff they tell you to
I
do.
hate that part of
What-
my nose.
Yeah.
Here's the flip side of that. I'm someone who loves meditation and hates breath work. Is it still going to be okay for me to do it if I'm down for like more of a, like not that I'm down for only peaceful stuff, but I definitely do a ton of like mindfulness meditation, and it seems to help me a lot in terms of just controlling the wildness that is my brain, or like slowing the hamster wheel down a little bit.
Yeah.
Are we reaching the same goal with breath work, or is it something completely different in terms of like quieting that stuff?
It's gonna quiet that stuff. And on the far side, so this is very similar. Once again, we're talking about rolling, very similar to jujitsu. Okay, so we're gonna compare breath work to jujitsu. There are the guys who like to drill. There are the guys who like to learn, and there are the guys who like the open mats. The guys who like to just roll, right? And all three things have value. And at the end of all three of those things, when you're done, your mind is quiet, your body is quiet, your nervous system is quiet, and and you're in a good space, and you're gonna be in a good space
Yeah.
for the next couple days.
Yeah, it's kind of
That's
like
the
doing
deal.
the different fight clubs to get yourself to sobriety. It's not like one is necessarily better than the other. It's just there's different paths, and for some people, one might be a lot easier or might be a lot more beneficial.
Yeah.
And they all end up in the same place.
But they're all going some. Yeah,
Yeah, you end up with a quiet mind, a quiet heart,
Yeah.
quiet emotions, and you can actually be effective in your own
yeah,
life.
make
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah. Because the fight club that I go to is essentially an anonymous program, I try not to say so often, I'm trying to figure out a healthy way to say like, I do this modality in order to achieve the sobriety that I have, and it's hard sometimes because I know people who have gotten sober and seem to be happy and well adjusted who did not go to my particular fight club, but I know so many people who just like totally need my fight club and won't go because they're like looking for any, and I was one of those people for a long time. I did not want my particular fight club to be the answer. I was like, fuck those people, fuck that coffee,
Fuck higher power. Fuck donuts.
fuck
Right.
fuck G-man upstairs.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not going, and then in the end, like, enough fetal positions, crying, thinking about killing yourself, and I was like, maybe I'll fucking go and drink that shitty coffee and talk to those happy people again.
Right.
And here I am, 7 years later.
Works out.
Yeah, and I just want to say, yes, there are a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but
Sorry,
don't-
cat people. Sorry,
don't-
just ahead of time. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna give a
thank
shout out
you.
to the cat
I
people
know
here.
my
It's
wife.
it's a metaphor.
she
Yeah.
said. So, but I think it's I kind of want to say, if you're thinking about getting sober, doing it alone is not a good idea. It rarely works. I'm not saying it won't, but I wouldn't put yourself to that test and be like, I'm gonna lone wolf it. That's essentially the voice of addiction being like, I'm gonna cut myself off. I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna, it's very similar addict speak.
That's one like common denominator with the different groups though. Like the one that I'm part of, it's like fellowship or sangha. It's the same word,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. Like
Right.
that's the one common denominator I think is like that fellowship is the most important
Well,
bit of
that's
it maybe.
that's because the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah.
And we find it on the mats. We find it in our own particular fight clubs. We find it. Some people find it in their churches. They find it in various communities, various ways to do it. Some people find it in their breathwork circles
Totally.
or their meditation practices with other people. The answer is connection. That the answer is not necessarily this brand of fight club or that brand of fight club. I think that I talk about probably more than I should, but mine is what worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's really important that I talk about that. And
Yeah.
but the point is that there's lots of ways to get there. And when we're busy comparing, is that a better way? Is that the thing? Is that going to work for me? I don't know. If it's just do something.
Yeah, do something and get some help. you know?
Get help.
Get a little bit of help. It let somebody in, connect. Yeah.
It also helps you keep that perspective of like if what you're doing is working besides your own mind, because it's so easy to like chase things. As we know, like you're like sometimes I'll try to do all this meditation, all this jujitsu, and all this stuff that is beneficial to me, and it's definitely a lot better than doing alcohol and stuff like that to fill that hole. But you're still trying to fill something,
Right.
and when you have people around you, at least you have someone to treat like, hey man, are you like being irresponsible with how much jujitsu you do? You know what I mean? Like there's
Right.
certain things that you can check yourself. You can almost have too much of a good thing sometimes, even
Yeah.
in early sobriety, especially, and the fact that you have people around to just be like, hey, maybe chill.
What do you like to do for fun nowadays?
Oh yeah, that's good.
Because a lot of people feel like they don't even know what they like to do for fun anymore when they're using and stuff. That like that's their idea of fun is going to the bar or whatever, and then ending up alone doing cocaine until the sun comes up. Sounds super fun. That's awful.
Right. And I love that. Like, I don't, what do I even do? What am I going to do? I hang out, go bowling? I don't, right. I don't, I jump out of airplanes. I travel. I just got back from Bali. I'm in under 2 weeks. I'm going to be in Aruba. I hang out, I hang out with my dope ass wife, and I got a super cool pit bull, and and we travel around the country and we travel around the world and we eat a bunch of cool food and we go to rad shows and I remember all of it. And by the way, when you're traveling, so heads up for the travelers, if you're not spending every dime on alcohol, right? If you're not buying like $22 martinis, because you're sitting at the resort, or, you're not buying a $17 garbage margarita, there's so much more money for other stuff, for cool stuff. Like, I like to drive fast. I like to do cool stuff. I like to have experiences that I wouldn't get to have, and if you're drunk, they're not letting you jump out of an airplane.
No. Or drive
Right?
fast, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
What do you what kind of car are you driving these days? Are you a car guy?
I'm not. I'm not. I just, the Central Coast is where my heart lives, right? And as soon as we get up north of Santa Barbara, no, my Kia, we're just, we're
Some
like
of those Kias are legit.
Yeah, they got some
some,
pickup.
yeah, but we're just driving. I got my pit bull in the back seat. I got my wife next to me. We got snacks and beverages and giant coffees, and we're like sailing up the coast. And you go to places like Big Sur, and walk into any Brazilian jiu-jitsu place ever. Show them your belt and ask when the next class is. And that's what I do for fun.
Welcome you. Yeah.
Because they're like, yeah, cool. Sometimes they'll charge you for a mat fee, but it's really only like the super cool schools that'll charge you for a mat,
the fancy ones.
Yeah, if they have Marcelo Garcia on their
Sure.
sign, like, yeah, we're gonna have to charge you.
If
But-
it's a headquarters of something, or
right. But if it's, if it's, Jimmy's House of BJJ and
Yeah.
and Taekwondo,
Yeah.
like roll, man.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on in.
Go on up to Salinas
If I
and get
ever
it going.
open a gym, it's going to be called Jimmy's House at BJJ.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to
Totally.
be. You know what? Hearing you say that answer to that, like, fairly simple question of, like, what do you do for fun? And then painting this beautiful picture of how enriched and, like, awesome your life is right now brought me back to what you said earlier of, like, you just got to find the guy whose life you want and do it. And, like, I'm hoping that someone listening to this just heard that and was like, holy shit, I want to do that. I want to have a bitchin' wife and a bitchin' pit bull and a Kia, and I want to fucking travel. And, like, that was just such a perfect way of just being like, oh, yeah, there's nothing fun to do except everything.
Yeah,
Like,
except for live my
literally
entire life.
everything. The world's your oyster. Life is beautiful. Like, there's so much to do sober, especially.
Yeah, and we're all gonna die, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that it's all temporary is why it's important. Is why it's important to get sober. It's why it's important to, because it's all a waste when you're just getting loaded. It's just a waste when you're not
Repetitive.
doing anything, and when you're crossing your arms thinking everything is stupid and everybody's dumb and everything that everybody does is ridiculous.
And I'm a rebel.
I'm a rebel.
I'm different.
Yeah.
Right? I'm edgy.
And I hurt people all the time, but I have a good heart.
Yeah. What a sad life when everything in the world is dumb and everybody's stupid and doing stuff. I you know what? If that's how you get down, that's how you get down. I throw people, I have friends off from all over the country. Somebody visits LA, I throw them in the backseat of my car. We go diving into sketchy neighborhoods and get tacos all over LA. There's 12,000 individual trucks, trailers, pop-ups, and taco stands in the greater LA area every single night.
Yeah.
Yes, I did know that.
It would take a lifetime
Yeah.
Yeah.
to hit them all.
Yeah, I've got like a handful of them that I'm
Uh.
like, that's where I will get tacos. That's where I get burritos.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't have very good
No.
quesadillas, but this one does.
This is probably a tough question for a esteemed Los Angeles chef. But before we land the plane, I'm gonna feel real dumb if I don't ask it. If you had to give someone, I got a lot of friends who visit LA we work on cruise ships as my main gig, and I got a lot of just like folks from out of country coming in here, and I always preach LA. I'm born and raised here too. I always say LA is the #1 food town in America. What are your top 3? Like, bring a someone from Sweden or whatever, just to, if you're gonna show them the 3 kind of levels of LA food, like must-haves, I guess.
It's so tough.
It's a tough one.
If you like really nice food, some Bestia.
Best,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's tough to beat. It's great food. And, anything. Funk is great.
Mhm.
Felix is great. Spago's still some of the best food in town.
Yeah.
Providence.
Yeah,
So those places. I don't do brick and mortar restaurants. Like I don't
Yeah.
do brick and mortar food anymore.
Mhm.
When people come into town, when my friend from Sweden comes into town, I'll throw him in. I'll throw him in the car, and we'll go over to like Boyle Heights, and we'll
Yeah.
go to Los Cinco Puntos.
Yep.
Right. We'll shoot over to Avenue 26 at 4th and Alameda. It's not on Avenue 26 anymore. Back when it was amazing.
mhm.
It's still the same food. It's just a different vibe now, but it's super good. Avenue 26, and then we'll shoot to like Angels Tijuana Tacos.
Yeah.
They have half a dozen or a dozen now locations,
Mhm.
and then maybe like Teddy's Red for birria.
Yeah.
But like the West Side, there's so much good stuff. That's where I'm taking people for
Are we
food.
are we
Yeah.
talking goat birria? Are we talking beef birria?
I'm completely agnostic. I will do goat birria. I will do beef birria. I will
love
do
goat.
kangaroo birria.
Yeah.
Like,
Whoa,
like
kangaroo
all of
birria.
it. All of
Let's
it.
go.
Do it.
If it slow cooked meat. My favorite is cochinita pibil, and it's
Yeah.
tough to get in LA. But we were just in Playa del Carmen not too long ago and eating all the cochinita in
really
Playa.
nice.
Have you ever gone to El Cochinito in Silver Lake?
I have not. Is it good?
I love it. I mean, it's I'm not a and I don't think I'm qualified to make decisions about what's quality or not. But it was real good, real
Yeah.
good.
Real good stuff.
Let's be real clear. You are 100% qualified
Thank
to
you.
decide what's
I
good.
knew this was coming.
If
God
you
damn it.
like it,
It's
eat
good.
it. If
It's
you
good.
don't like it,
Right.
don't eat it. The
Absolutely.
biggest misconception about chefs is that we're super picky eaters. I eat everything as long as it is what it's presented as.
Here's a fun game. Let's pretend I'm from Sweden and you take me places to eat, huh?
Let's
That's another new podcast.
Oh,
Let's
That's
do
a
it.
podcast in and of itself.
You're just gonna pretend to be Swedish for a month or two while it takes you around LA.
Oh my
I
God,
actually
we
just want to go
sandwich
eat
shops.
some food with you.
Yeah.
Everything that you named, I was like, I don't know what that is. Let's go there. Like,
Yeah.
I want to try that.
Oh, it's so good.
sometime let's have some.
The
some
more we're
chow.
getting into this kind of talk, the more I'm looking at the clock. We should land this plane
Okay, let's
so
do
we
it.
can like truly maybe go eat some tacos.
Yeah,
because
let's do
after hearing all that different kind of birria, I want to try some kangaroo birria right now.
Yeah,
It's got to happen.
yeah.
But
All right, Dave, thank you so much for joining us, man. You are our first guest, and I thought it was apropos given the fact that you came up with the name Rolling Sober. And, I appreciated how generous you were about, like, sharing the namesake and like, just being a part of it and just egoless, like, yeah, let's fucking do it. Go on,
Yeah.
go. Fuck yeah,
is it okay
You're
if we
just
call
such a cool dude.
if we call you the Godfather, like Dave?
Yeah,
Dave,
let's do
Dave
it.
Godfather.
sure.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Godfather.
for
Rolling
sure.
Sober.
Godfather David
Absolutely.
G.
For
We'll
sure.
put,
Godfather.
we'll put your pictures on the wall.
Absolutely.
If we ever do a brick and mortar Rolling Sober.
Oh my God,
Oh
yeah.
my God, that'd be so
Got to
great,
do
right?
it. Yeah.
I remember when you reached out to me and you're like, hey, let's do this. And I'm like, yeah, I need somebody else doing this with me. And I was just grateful to find like sober guys who like jujitsu. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, let's do this.
Hell yeah.
Brother. Hell yeah.
Now it's happening.
I appreciate you, sir. And let's get some tacos sometime.
Let's do it.
Yeah. About nowish.
Rolling Sober signing off. Ciao.
Take it easy.